Evening all, how are we doing? I see we're gaming the system again. Yeah, I think it should be eaten. What does it say from my side? According to this, it goes Max versus and then Ian. Oh, thank you, Antonio. We should have another build this evening with more fixes. In fact, I've been working on the sensors not showing a scanned state when you press back after doing a scan. It's a bug that First has found, but is now fixed. Fixed properly this time. So without further ado, let's go have a quick look. So what I want it to do, because if I just demonstrate what it's not doing, oh, it's done the thing that it does. I think this is only happening on my test map, so fingers crossed it's not a bigger problem. It's just sometimes when I start it doesn't generate the galaxy stuff, but it is now. So if we increase the range a bit, you can see that we have some scanned systems here. Now, if I scan like Taoseti, for example.
Initiating long-range survey.
Now, what was happening before is when you press back, it wouldn't show that you've done any scanning when you scroll it off the screen, but that should now be working properly. I just want to test it.
Long-range survey complete.
Okay, so we go back and then we scroll to it. So Taoseti has data, so that is fixed. What I was just working on immediately before the stream is I want to make it scroll down to that particular entry. So when you click a system, you can see it's saying 0 up here. That should be showing the actual index number of this entry, not 0. So I'm just going to try and figure out what's going on with that. So the next leg of the roadmap, I guess we're not really counting the VR build in that, because the VR build is literally just a test for VR, just to kind of demonstrate a proof of concept. So the demo build goes live. I'll then make a VR build of that build. So I won't add anything new. I'll just add VR on top. And then once that's done, then we'll be moving on to the 226 patch cycle, which is essentially taking command of the bridge, being the captain, ordering a couple of NPCs around, and being able to interact with the Holo-Display. But given that I don't really have anything specific to do this evening that isn't a massive job that involves ripping things apart, I think I might get a little bit of a head start on 226 and add some of the interaction stuff for the Holo-Display. Maybe we'll get the Holo-Display controls done and the ability to click on things to set targets. Right, what was I doing? List items. Right, so when I just added a local integer into here for a minute. So I can't use the array index to drive the list item index, because if some of the criteria doesn't match, like if we're filtering, then it doesn't actually add a list item, it's skipped, which means because we're skipping one, that array index is no longer valid. So what we need to do is we need to just track how many we're actually adding. So we're definitely assigning +1 to that. Let me neaten this up a bit. Oh, I see what I've done. Yeah, so I added +1 in there. It should have been on the value. So the variable is that, and then the +1 is that. That makes more sense. Yeah, and then we're assigning that accordingly. Just this one, AJ. I can't remember whether or not this was working prior to this change or not, so I'm just making sure that it works post change. Right, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, so it's getting the index number. So if we highlight Procyon, for example, and then go there, so when we press back, it should scroll back down to Procyon, which it does. Ha! Wow, that just worked first time. That's a rarity. So Van Manenstar, click back. Yeah, there we go. Because before, what it was doing is when you click back, it was scrolling up to 0, which is no good for what we want. Ah, DevCat has arrived. Hello, Pip. Okay, yeah, so I was worried that would happen. It's still doing it when we're resetting it. So one last thing to do. We just need to zero out that variable when we initiate the long-range mode change. So long range. I don't think we actually have a clear function on there. No, we don't. So yes, Antonio, this is kind of, well, I guess you'd call it blueprint scripting. The widgets are the UI interface that Unreal provides, and they also have a blueprint section, so you can actually run code on the UI. But yeah, it's considered to be scripting. I did Firstus, yes. So the problem was when we did the deck separation and we moved all the decks apart, I changed the teleport locations for the player character, but I didn't do it for the chairs. So of course, anything below B deck was offset by an increasingly bigger amount. So they should be identical now. What I might do is I'll use this. So when we do our initial setup here, yeah, so we'll grab our live sensor data. And then if long basic target so if long basic target is false, then we're going to set that to 0, and that should fix our problem. Oh, it's done the thing. Stop doing the thing. give it a bit of range. Let's pick that one. Go back. Okay. So that's making it. But it should have a basic target because we have one selected. All right, let's do this in a more reliable way. I'll stick it on there as an action message. Long clear index. And then on here we just need to make sure we add that onto there as an action message. Long. I'm typing around a cat right now. That one, back, still scroll to that one, back, still scroll to that one. Now we should be at 0 now, which we're not. I know why. Because that action there is happening before that action there. So we actually need to move that one to the top. To make sure that if we're clearing it, we clear it before we do the scroll action. We will get to the bottom of this. Better. Okay, so we're properly returning to that one there, and then we should not there. Ah, there we go. Oh, no we are. What? Curses. Right. Okay, so it's still an action order problem, but it's because I've put them that way around on here. Can't drag those, can you? No. So that one needs to be clear index, and then that one needs to be refresh basic. Because we need to clear it before we refresh. So that works, and there we go. That's better. So we still have it scrolling to the right place when you press back, but it also resets when you do that. great. Fixed it. Just add that to my notes a minute. Okay. So with that out the way, we are going to do our first 226 item, which is kind of exciting. We just go in game a minute and I'll demonstrate what it is we want to achieve. So when you are looking at the Holo-Display, like so, let's just put a bunch of stuff on there. So the idea is, as the captain, you should be able to click on a star, either by left-clicking it or by holding E and using the mouse on it. You should be able to bring up a menu of that object and then select some actions, the two easiest of which are going to be set as command target, set as sensor target, set as helm target initially. But when we actually do this properly, we'll do it to set command target, and then command target will be available on here as something you can select, and the same on here. So where we've got use sensor target, we'll also have use command target. The idea being that you can walk up to the Holo-Display, click on a planet, and then look over at the helm guy and say, yeah, set a course to my target. So you can bypass sensors entirely. Or similarly, you click an object, turn to the sensors and say scan my target, or show me more detail, something like that. However, I think what we'll do, because we need to draw a little interactive ball around each of the locations that you'll be able to target, and at the moment these are all hierarchical mesh instances, so they're not actual individual objects in their own right, they are instances of static meshes, which is how we can spawn so many of them and it not lag. However, that does mean that they don't have a real physical presence, in that you can't access them directly without referring to an ID. And you can access the ID at spawn time, but I've not found a way of accessing it in the actual game world itself. So you can't select an object, get its ID, and then work out its transform from that ID. At least not as far as I've seen. So my solution to this is to limit the range in which things are clickable, which is basically going to be equal to the range where labels appear. So I always get those mixed up. So basically, if it has a label, then you can click on it and interact with it. To be honest, having like a bazillion things you can click on would be like confusing anyway, because you're clicking on the right one would be a nightmare. So it kind of makes sense that in order for them to be interactable, they need to have labels, which means the interactable range is 20 light years. Now we're already spawning labels over them. So what we will do is we'll we'll use the label spawning code to also spawn a clickable ball. And again, because the range is limited, we're not having to spawn very many of them, which means it's not going to cause too much of an issue. It shouldn't be any more costly than spawning the labels themselves. And then those things will be clickable when you look at them. Do we want them to be highlightable is the question. Maybe we'll have like a little soft glow around them to indicate that you're, you know, able to interact with them. We'll come up with some solution for that. And I need to borrow some of the code I did for the piano so that we can fire line traces from the mouse like that. And then we'll use that same system on here, so you can, you know, click on whatever's. We'll also use that just generally as well. So for clicking on, actually, did I do that for this? Oh, I did. Yeah. So it's the same deal. So you can click the buttons in the world using the mouse pointer. Okay, so I guess the first step of the challenge there is to actually draw some balls. Right, let's get rid of that. We've got some spam on here we need to clear up a minute. Oh, thank you, Delta. I will make sure that Claire gets chocolate. Or some squashies. She's rather fond of squashies as well. I don't know whether you get squashies in the US, but they're like a squishy sweet. So if anyone wants to send Claire anything, send squashies. Sorting my phone out a sec. Right, that should have gotten rid of the debug spam. Okay, so they can all go away. Don't need that, don't need Right then, Holo-Display. I can't believe you found the URL. They're not quite a gummy. They're softer than gummies. I don't know how to describe them really. Like less flumpier than a flump, but not as hard as a gummy. That's a sentence I never thought I'd say today. Less flumpier than a flump. Right, so this is where we do our range check. So if the range is less than 20 light years, and we sort out our filtery stuff there. So if that comes back true, then we add our text renders. So in addition to the text renders, we will also add some clicky balls. Actually, that's the perfect analogy, Ian, yeah. What's the best way of doing this? I wonder why I'm not adding them as a child object. That's something I need to sort out in the future, actually. Make them child objects rather than spawning them separately. But I'll have to do the same for this. Thank you, Firstus. Dan's inebriation fund, I like that. Wow. First year anniversary of being at every stream. That is crazy. That's pretty amazing, thank you. Right, so we want to add a static mesh component and I don't know why I'm setting, because I'm attaching, right, okay, so yeah, I'm attaching it to that, so I'll probably have to do the same here. Is it worth me? No, it's not. I'm going to keep them separate so that we don't have any oddness. Right, so we spawn a sphere. We'll just use an engine shape sphere for now. Too many junk meshes. Engine meshes sphere. There we go. So spawn a sphere, and we need a copy of that vector. So let's just borrow that one. Okay, so we don't want to, yeah, we don't want to scale it at all because we want it to be on top of the planet. So we don't need to do that. That should at least put it in place, but then we do need to set the scale. And then we need to drive the scale based off of our zoom level. Which is there. This is going to be a little bit of an experiment in terms of getting the right number here. so that's probably, no, it's going to need to be 0.001, because we're timesing that by the range, which in this case would be 20 at its maximum range. So that's 20 times that, which ends up being the mesh scale. So they should be quite tiny. Although it is a 1 meter wide mesh as well. So just need to tweak it until we get the right scale. Oh, that was not a bad guess at all. Okay, so yeah, they're doing the opposite of what we want as we zoom out. So they need to stay relatively scaled. But yeah, then these should become clickable. Okay. Did I just... Oh no, I didn't. Sorry, I thought I'd missed a super chat then. So moving the holo-display is a complicated affair, because it's rendering the galactic space kind of similar to the way it does out the window. So it's offsetting the little spheres by a really, really long way. So the actual root location is like way over there somewhere, and then it's offsetting them negative to that to render them relative to where the ship is, because we want obviously to see the ship flying around, and the ship is locked to the center of the holo-display, and it's angled with, with galactic north in mind. So to rotate it means we have to recalculate every single vector based on that location, which might be a little bit of an issue. Although, if we're only moving them in local space, then we can just rotate the actor like this. So we can rotate this whilst retaining the right offset. Yeah, I'll have a think on that one. Yeah, definitely, Max. I think when it comes to the holo-display and how we're actually displaying the data, eventually we're going to move the holo-display controls off of this screen and put them actually on the holo-display itself, because if the captain is interacting with the holo-display and looking at data and zooming in and out, we want the sensors guy to be able to carry on with their job while they're doing that without the two interfering with one another. The only caveat to that is that if the sensors guy change modes, then obviously the holo-display needs to update to reflect that mode. So there does need to be a little bit of cooperation between the two of them. But once we have that up and running and we've got that kind of clicking target system sorted, then we'll work on that actual relationship between the captain and the sensors guy to sort of refine how all of that works. Because obviously we've planned it in theory of how we think it would be good to work, but once you actually get into it and do it in practice, it doesn't always work out the way you thought it might. So we'll refine as we go. Right, so we need to do the inverse of this. can't remember how I did that last time. So, did I do it up here actually? Oh, yeah, that was it. Yeah, so it's that. So we've got our actual scale. So if we wanted the size of the mesh to be, say, 0.1, which I think is 10 centimeters. Yeah. So that should be relative based on the mesh size there. Because here, we're scaling it based on the width of the Holo-Display. Let's give that a try a minute. That might be a really stupidly small number for what we need it to be. Now we're not working on comms, we're working on interactability on the Holo-Display. Oh, actually that is working. So as we zoom out to there, yeah, the balls have gotten smaller. Might want to make them a bit bigger though. So maybe we'll make that 0.25, because we want the location that's capturing the mouse click to be fairly big, so that we're not kind of missing it. Yes, Ian, I've had this same debate myself, in that right now the Holo-Display, yes, it matches the display range that you're set, because it's not technically sensor range, it's more display range. And to be honest, I should probably rename it to display range, because that makes more sense. Actually, no, sorry, no. The reason we called it sensor range is because it was confusing people. Because as you increase the sensor range, you're showing more stuff, because obviously your range is further. As you decrease the sensor range, you're showing less stuff. If you call it display range, then it's kind of confusing, and people kind of confuse the plus and the minus as a zoom in and out, and it's not a zoom in and out, it's actually a display range. Yeah, I've tried various different versions of how we could possibly do this, but ultimately, what it is doing is increasing or decreasing the range of the sensors, and therefore showing the opposite on the Holo-Display, because you're obviously showing more stuff as you increase the range. Oh, I get it wrong every time as well. I made it and I still get it wrong. I'm wondering actually whether or not we even need to scale them. Do we need to scale them? I guess we don't, do we? Because the little balls themselves don't scale, so they don't change. So really, we just need to maintain the hitbox. Alright, let's just keep that handy in case we do decide to scale it, but I think a consistent size works. It's probably a bit big, that is. Holy space potatoes. Yeah, I'm guessing about half that size. What do you mean crashed? Oh look, I have 5.6 installed. I haven't actually opened it yet. Yeah, there were too many balls. Yeah, it wouldn't work yet. We've got that many plugins to update before we can do 5.6. Yeah. It's going to take a few weeks before they're all updated. So it won't even open the game at the moment. Yeah, the new UI, I'm sure it's going to be really good and speed up workflow a bit, but it's going to take some getting used to. That's a bit more like it. So the most clustered it's ever going to be is at 20 light years, just before the cutoff. So those two systems, I believe, are 1 light year apart, so I think that's a decent enough hitbox. They do have collisions as well, so to work out how we're doing this, because we need a physical collision to obviously capture the line trace, and we can't. Well, we can't do line trace by visibility because they're going to technically be invisible until you actually click on them. So might need to make a new collision channel for this. Well, before we do that, let's make a material for them. Yeah, they definitely need to glow. Talking of DNA, I had a DNA test that Claire did. She did one for all of us, and I guess it came back as expected, but I don't have any interesting DNA apparently. My DNA is 50% English, 30% Scottish and Welsh, and then the rest of it's kind of just spread around Europe. So I'm very much English apparently, according to my DNA. Yeah, I'll make a new material for this one. Holo highlighter. Thank you, Nagmus. Yeah, I happen to really love that loading screen. So we want unlit, we want translucent, because we're going to do some funky stuff. Right, so if we go with, let's get a Fresnel node, because we'll change the opacity according to that. I'll get a vector, call it color. I suppose we need to drive this color into the UI customization at some point, so that people can customize the color of the Holo-Display highlights. Just make it like that for now. And then if we multiply that by the Fresnel, that's the wrong Fresnel. That's the one I wanted. And we want to invert that. I can never work out whether or not to use a multiply by -1 or a 1 minus. They're different. They do different things, and it always confuses me as to which one is the one I'm looking for. So the reason I do this is if you just have an opacity of 1, you can see that it's just a solid ball. But if you use Fresnel, then you can do subtle fading around the edges, which makes it look nicer. Yeah, let's give it a little bit of brightness on top of that as well, because it's Fresnel's dimming it. Oh no, wrong one. And then we actually need, that's actually more like that, isn't it? don't think we can. What on earth did I call it? Yeah, that. Right, let's just see what that looks like a minute. So obviously this won't show up until you actually have it highlighted. I'm thinking that's probably a little bit too big. What if? And I really like that you can actually edit materials whilst the game is running, so that makes life a bit easier. What if we don't 1 minus that and we do something like that instead? That might actually look nicer. And then if we mess about with the exponent, I think we want a smaller one actually. Oh, not that small. Yeah, something like that maybe. Again, that's just like when you're highlighting it, that's how it will come up. It'd be nice to get like a hard edge on that as well. So actually no, if I just make it smaller, that should have the same effect. We don't want to make it too fiddly. So we want them to be a decent size without being like too small. Yeah, that looks a bit more reasonable. So as you're mousing over it, that little highlight will appear. Okay. So having done that, we now need to make it basically hidden until told otherwise. And I wonder... Do you want it brighter? Let's do it. Let's just test that a sec. Yeah, we'll mess about with the color once we're kind of closer to getting them clicked on. Yeah, I think the ability to move the display up and down is probably another thing that we want to add to the actual Holo-Display controls. Because what I'm... cat just sneezed on my leg. Thanks, Pip. Yeah, we have like a little floaty control panel or rendered as part of the Holo-Display, and that's where the interactive controls will be for the captain. It was a cat chew, I agree. Yeah, so the Holo-Display is... It's not going to be able to replace the functionality of the Sensors UI. Some of the stuff that's on the Sensors UI we want to show on the Holo-Display. So like a lot of the data stuff that you get, we're not showing at the moment. So I'd like to get that on there. But the Holo-Display is supposed to be a display device, not necessarily a control surface. Although we do want to blur the lines a little bit and have some control actions available to the captain. So rather than the captain going, can you target that one? No, that one. No, that one over there. We don't want this like awkward exchange. So having the captain able to just like poke a planet and say that one, it's all about usability. But we want the primary sensor activity happening on the sensor station itself, with the Holo-Display simply being an information tool for the command staff. If that makes sense. It would be really cool if it was a kind of like Tony Stark-esque thing where you could grab a planet, pick it up, and like do that with it in 3D. But that's like a little bit beyond me right now. Never say never, though. Okay, so obviously this also needs to work in multiplayer, which is always the fun challenge. What's the best way of doing this? I'm wondering actually whether or not we set up these little highlighters as a separate actor, and then we fire some information across to that actor, such as where it is, what planet it is, some basically basic sensors data, rather than trying to store that here on the Holo-Display. Because if we do that, then we can make those individual things replicate. Let's just let's give that a quick whirl a minute. So sensors, sensors target celestial, because we'll have other versions of this as well. So once we start adding like the tactical overlay and that sort of thing, then we'll also have other ships and ship systems and individual subsystems on ships that you can click and that sort of thing. So we might actually end up making a range of different things that we can spawn there. So if we just give this a sphere, and we were making this 0.05, weren't we? Was it 0.005? Because it was quite weeny. Was it that big, or was it 0.025? Yeah, there we go. Right, then we'll give that our Holo highlight jobber. So now, rather than spawning a static mesh, if we do add child actor, do that instead, and that is holo sensors. No, already forgotten what I called it. Sensors target celestial. That was it. Sensors target celestial. Oh, music stopped. Why did the music stop? There we go. I'm actually going to click loop this time. Every stream I forget to click loop. Yeah, I did. Right, so we don't need to do the scaling because it's already done in the actor itself. Let's just try this a minute. Oh no, Galaxy didn't load. Try again. That's better. It's interesting that it's made them smaller. Weird, but at least it's spawning them as actors, so that means that gives us a little bit more scope to be able to interact with them and actually pass information back and forth. So set it to 0.1 a minute, just see how that actually comes out. Yeah, near enough. Right, so on that mesh, cannot affect navigation, does not cast shadows, and on the collisions, these are custom collisions, so we ignore everything to begin with. I suppose we could use the volume channel. Oh yeah, then we need traces, so I wonder if it will block visibility traces even though it's going to be invisible. Also need to give it a tag as well, because on our player character we need to make sure that we are actually interacting with the thing. Yes, Delta, it definitely can match the star color. I'll think on whether or not we want it to do that or not, but yeah, it can do. so right, so that's the clicky click. So the more things we add to the game that can be clicked on physically in the world, the more this is going to become unwieldy. So we actually kind of need to do a check on that and give each thing its own tag, so then we can do a switch on the name, and fire the button press accordingly. Yeah. For now, just for the sake of testing, I shall give it. I'll just add it to this. So that was sensors celestial. And if button is true. Let's do a switch on name. So we'll have the default come down into there. We'll have button go into there. Which means we don't need that anymore. And then we'll drive our clicky code from there. So that was Holo-Target. Is that what I called it? Yeah, Holo-Target. Yeah, so for now then, if we just cast to that. So that's going to be the click handling, and then we also need that. So we need to add Ujima flip in there, which is Holo-Target. Okay, and then again we need to get our looking at actor cast to celestial. Usual disclaimer, this is by no means final, just testing the functionality. So if we set visibility as false, and then we will toggle visibility off after a period, maybe. So we'll set visibility based on that Boolean, which means on here we need to set visibility. Sorry, toggle visibility. Yeah, so we're going to have to manage the not being looked at on here. So if we had a retriggerable delay for maybe half a second, might even be a bit too long to be honest, and then we'll do the opposite of that. To be honest, that we don't even need that, because what we're doing is yeah, we're just forcing it to be visible, waiting half a second, and every time we get a look at hit, it will reset this, and if it's not been looked at for half a second, it will go invisible again. So that should solve that, which means we don't need that. Let's just give that a whirl a minute and see whether it works. Sorry, the chat's just speeding by. No people on the bridge yet, Elliot. Those are just the default chair actors, which are hidden normally. Okay. So yeah, I don't think we're I don't think we're actually getting a line trace on those because they are hidden. So instead, if we right, so instead of setting the visibility of the sphere itself, we can instead do something with the material. So we can set custom primitive data float to the default one actually, to 1 and then to 0, like that. And then on the material itself, we will multiply the opacity by a scalar, which we'll call opacity. Default that to 1. But if we make this custom primitive data, then we can control that from the mesh's custom data, which means we can influence the details of the material via the mesh. If we have them on by default, yeah, so they should all be visible when the game starts, and then as we kind of wave the cursor over them, they should all start disappearing. in theory. Oh, no, I didn't set the mesh to be visible, did I? That won't help. Okay, so the line trace isn't picking them up. What channel are we using on that? Oh, interaction. Well, that doesn't help, does it? Which means on here, on the collisions, we need to block interaction, but not visibility. Yeah, I could probably stay as a world dynamic. Do the thing. Okay, the other thing I'll do. If we just, for testing purposes, just do that. And then do a lerp on that. And then we drive that into there. So it'll just change color as well based on the opacity value. Just to see whether that's actually working. And then on here we need to did I put a space? No. Okay. See whether it's actually hitting it or not. Yeah, so we're not actually hitting it with the line trace. I'm wondering if that's because it's transparent. Although you should be able to hit a transparent thing with a line trace because it's a different channel. It's not using the visibility channel, so hang on, let's just block everything for a minute. Just for testing purposes. Galaxy didn't generate. Come on, Galaxy. So I can only assume that something's blocking the trace. I mean, that's not being blocked, so... Oh, that's interesting. Is it blocking that? Okay, yeah, so the ball is definitely blocking the line trace, so that means it is hitting it. Does it continue to hit it if we block interaction? So we're definitely blocking the line trace. Which means... what's it not doing? So we're definitely hitting it, and... grabbing some details. Right, are we not getting a tag, maybe? Did I not tag this one? Oh no, I did tag it, okay. Just grab the actor name, just so we know what we're actually hitting. Okay, it's definitely picking up the right actor when we hover the mouse over it. Yeah, so that's picking up the globe, and that's picking up the child actor. Right. Progress. Is it not seeing it as an actor, maybe? Now, let's just see whether there's actually any tag there for it to find. Because it's a child actor, it might not actually be getting that properly. Yeah, so that one's got prop, and that's coming up with none, so it's not picking up the tag. So if we get child, oh no, it doesn't work. What we could do is it seeing it as a component, because that might make sense. Ah, in that case, so this is set up specifically to deal with actors, not components. So really, so like off the default pin, so we don't need that one. Basically, we need a copy of that there. We need to bring our component in there. Alright, so if that is false, do what we were doing anyway. If it's true, again, this is very, very bodgy, but we're just testing it for now. Does that equal holo target? If true, do that, otherwise I'll do the rest of the other stuff. Right, so that should now at least hide the blobs. Nope, right, okay. So we're checking our component tags. If it's holo target, which it is, isn't it? Holo target, yep. It's true. Then we're going to cast to that. I'm wondering whether this cast is actually failing, which is why it's not going through. Oh, that's interesting. It's not even going there, so... Oh, I see. It's because we need to hook it up to that one, don't we? Yeah, because that's failing, so that is what we need to be doing. Aha. There we go. We look at them, and then after half a second, they vanish. Okay. Alright. Now we need the opposite of that. So I don't need that anymore. That can go back there. Yep. And then on here, where are we? So make sure they're hidden on begin play. And then we set to 1 while we're looking at it. And then we can probably reduce that to 1/4 of a second. Okay. Hurrah! So we now have a highlight and we look at stuff. It's really difficult to get exactly 20. Go. Oh, that's interesting. Why? Oh. Hold on. Why are only some of them working? I think another thing I might do with this is I might make the distant labels fainter or darker. So as you move around, the labels closer to you are brighter and more readable, like there. So you've got like 2 overlaid. The one behind it will be much darker. Just to make that a bit nicer. I've just worked out why this was failing us, because we're not actually we're not building up an array of that object. So when we reset the Holo-Display, we actually need to go through and delete all the objects in that array. So if we promote that to a variable, we'll call it Holo Targets. Make that an array. Stop it. There we go. So every time we add one of those balls, we're adding it to an array. And then when we do our reset action, which would be up here somewhere, yeah, that one, reset sensors, we go through and destroy. So like with the labels, we move that down a bit. Just duplicate that. Get our hollow targets. So is valid, destroy, and then when we're done, clear the array. So that just ensures that we don't spawn like millions and millions of balls and then not getting rid of them. Just check that a sec. So if we just go in, out, spawn loads and loads and loads of balls. Yeah, there we go. And they're all working because they're not being blocked by the ones we didn't delete. Progress. Yeah, when it comes to those labels, so we have a tick function here. Where are we? So it's basically facing Holo-Display, that one. So we have a function that faces all the labels to the camera, which is that one. And I think what we'll do is we will set the world rotation to face the camera, and then we will get the world location of the. Oh, we're kind of doing it there actually. So if we, yeah, we're already doing it there. So if we do distance, okay, and then we'll do set text render color. We want HSV to RGB. Yeah, that'll do. And then basically, if we map range on that, so basically at zero range we want fully white, and then at, say, I don't know, like 3 meters, we want it to be maybe not entirely black, maybe like just mostly black. Actually, if we... Oh, should we fade them out or not? I don't know whether it will fade them out. It might just be a mask rather than a translucent. Yeah, that worked brilliantly. Yeah, so we'll do it in the brightness instead. Helps if the galaxy loads. Well, it seems to be working. Yeah, I think they're a little bit dimmer. Let's see if we can adjust the range on that slightly. So maybe make it 2 meters away. Take that down to 0.1. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Okay, that's a bit better. So the ones in front are definitely brighter than the ones behind. We can probably so if we go, so maybe up to, or maybe up to 1 meter away. So 1 meter away there, like bright. And then 3 meters away, we're really dim. Yeah, so anything less than 1 meter, so up to 1 meter, they'll be fully bright, and then they'll fall off up to 3 meters. Yeah, that works nice and smooth. Kind of adds to the 3D feel of it as well. With those ones being brighter up in front of you, it's yeah, just kind of adds to the depth feeling. Something else I'm going to do as well is right now the Holo-Display is a ball, and I'm going to make it a cylinder, because once we have the actual projection hardware on the ceiling here, which is currently missing, and a window in the middle, then I'll make this a cylindrical display, which means we'll be able to display, you know, more stars within that range. No, there's no power usage on the scanners yet. There will be at some point though. Okay. The eternal tweaker in me wants to tweak that slightly more. As Claire would say, this is why things take me so long, because I kind of just tweak and tweak and tweak. Yeah, I quite like that effect. So the way that this ship works and everything, it really does encourage the command staff to, you know, get up off their asses and actually, you know, do their job. Walk around the Holo-Display, interact with it. Don't just sit in the chair all day. Right, so now that we've done that, the next thing to do is we need to capture the click when we click on them, and I kind of need to figure out firing a line trace from the mouse pointer as well. So we kind of need to get the screen position and fire a line trace forward, the same as we do for the piano, but like on tick, like we do for the looking one. You just need a flag. If E's held down, then change that. And then again, you should be able to highlight with the mouse, which makes life a lot easier than looking around. And then on click, we need to, I guess for now, just as a working proof of concept, maybe just have it set the sensor target when you click on it. So just literally the same action as doing that. So you're essentially, it's just setting it as the sensor target. Oh, I like that completely by fluke, the highlight is the same size as the sensor thing. I wouldn't have got it the same size even if I'd planned it, so that's really funny. Yeah, the problem with the short range scans is you actually need to be within 3 million kilometers of the target. So you wouldn't be able to do it from a medium range. Okay. Now comes the fun bit. So this is where it falls on its face in multiplayer. Right, so we know that we need to get the component tags, and we know that that's working. So when we do this, oh, that is getting component tags. That's useful. Oh, so that's already working then. So if that cast is successful, then let's just check that we're getting this far, because if we are, that's half the battle. I think I might lower that to 0.15, so it's a bit more rapid when you look away. Yeah, we'll have to look into that. Right. So we're not capturing the clickety click. And let's just double check that the chessboard still spawns a minute. Yep, so that code is not broken. So we're definitely getting to here. So we're getting hit component. Oh. I think we were casting to the actor and not the component. That would be why. Cast to Celeste. Get that's going to be interesting. So we do our line trace. We're hitting a component. Actually, yeah, I'm going to borrow that bit of code a minute, because I've just realized we can probably do this really, really simply, at least for those. So if we do a controller check just to make sure that we are currently inheriting this pawn, possessing this pawn even. Right, and then we need we do a branch on that, so if it's false, we carry on as before and doing our line trace, but if it's true, then we'll do that. Yeah, and then we'll do that. To be honest with you, we can probably move that over there. Actually, no, we do need to keep that there, don't we? Because we need to keep that for looking at it. So if we copy that over there. Right, and the hit component goes into there. Why is it letting me cast to it from this one but not the other one? That's kind of weird. Right, then if so if that is a valid index and it happens to be hollow target, then we will go ahead and do that. So that should... Hang on a minute then, why are we... So we're getting the component there. And how come that's working there? Oh, I'm confused. Because the actor we're looking at is surely the Holo-Display. Although maybe not. It gets confusing when we're dealing with child components. Right, so it's fine when we stare at it. What about the mouse? No. Okay. We use. We not use the interaction channel, maybe. Hang on. Yeah, that'll be why. That's also going to affect us here as well, because we're line tracing by visibility. Really, that should be interaction, which means we need to change the trace channel on the piano keys and the chessboard so that we're actually tracing by the right channels. Let's just try the wavy hand a minute, make sure that works. Yeah, there we go. So now we can hover the mouse over the things and they highlight nicely. To save you getting vertigo waving the camera around everywhere. So some improvements we need to make to this. Right now, so the whole point of this Holo-Display is this is how the command staff understand the tactical situation of what's going on in and around the ship. So rather than standing over here, kind of staring over the shoulder of the sensors guy, they need to be stood here, seeing that information displayed in glorious 3D. So, on the sensors, we've got like percentage explored, we've got whether it's highlighted and such. So we need things like percentage explored on here. Also things like whether there's a text signature or things like that. So I'm thinking maybe we'll use icons, so we can just append some icons maybe above the text or below the text, just so that we are communicating more information to the command staff, so that it aids in the decision making, especially if you're stood here and you don't know whether that's been scanned already. So if you say scan that please, then you've got that awkward moment with the sensors guy who says, well, we already have, Captain, and then the captain goes, oh, I wasn't paying attention. But if we put some kind of icon on there, then we know that that's already been done. Yeah, okay. Right, so let's make it clickable. Yeah, both. Right, so we need to change these trace channels to interaction, which means that cast can once again work. So cast to sensors target celestial, which will give us the clicky click. And then over yonder, we need to make sure that we also change the trace channel on those two cylinders. So if we do custom, so really want to ignore everything except the interaction channel. Yeah, because we don't want them colliding with anything else. So that should be the chessboard compatible with that. And then the piano keys, which is going to be the slightly more awkward one. So basically on construct, we add our keys. So add static mesh component, and then that's already blocking interaction, so I think I might leave that as is. I would like to get to the point where if you get a prop and then you slam the prop up and down on the keys, it actually plays notes. But maybe that could be a fun day Sunday. Right, make sure that still works. Yeah, it still works with that. Still works with that. Okay. Make sure this still works. Yep, still works. Okay. Okay, so we're getting a clickety click clicks. Nice. But not with the pointer, so we just need to hook up the code for the pointer. That'll be over here. Yeah. do I... So if we're holding down the interaction key, the hit actor for the chessboard is using the line trace from there. Oh, I suppose that's always true. Because I would have thought that actually should be from there. I think that's one of those things where it was working when it technically shouldn't have been, but I'll just go through and verify that it's still working. Yeah, so that works and that works. Yeah, so that's fine. Click, 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 click. Great, so that's working. So we can click it with the mouse by looking at it, and we can click it with the cursor by moving the cursor around. Clickety, clickety, clickety. Great. That should make it a lot more user-friendly, just being able to hold E and do that with the mouse. So much nicer than having to like move your face around to interact with things. Right. And makes it more VR compatible as well, which will become relevant very soon. Right. Here comes the difficult bit. So we have... So we've got the ability to send clicks through. Okay, so if we make a new custom event, I'll just call it target clicked. Good grief, why can't I spell today? Target clicked. There we go. So long term, we need to generate a menu at this point. Because when you click on something in the Holo-Display, we probably need a context-sensitive menu with various different options. Because once we have like other bridge stations that can do stuff, let's say that we're in tactical mode and you've got an enemy ship on the Holo-Display with various different like sub-targets. When you click on it, you'll need some command options for the tactical station, as in fire at this bit, and also for maybe the helm station, which is, you know, angle the ship towards this target. Yeah, so we'll probably have a context sensitive pop-up for that. And yeah, probably similar for the state for these sensors and helm. Okay. Right. So we're going to need a server action here. Just thinking about how to get this transmitted to the sensors, and I think if we add sensors as an actor, So we've got actor reference. We'll expose that on spawn. And then on the Holo-Display, on begin play, yeah, so if we do get all actors of class, and that would be BP sensors, or was it BP nav panel, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. And we're doing is valid check on that. So the reason we're doing this on begin play is because get all actors of class is expensive, and we don't want to do that more often than we need to. So if we do it on begin play, then we can promote that to a variable. So we've got a reference to our nav panel. So call that sensors panel. And then when we do the spawning of the whatsits, because we're not spawning an actor, we can't. Yeah, so there's a certain thing here where if you're spawning an actor in the world, you can set up certain variables when you spawn that actor. But because we're adding it as a child component, we don't have access to those variables to set them here. So we're going to have to probably cast to that. So cast to Celeste. Get child actor. And then cast to Celestial. Yeah. Right, and then set sensors. Yeah. So we're setting this variable when we spawn this component. And that would be, so that's the Holo-Display. So then we're putting that in there. So yeah, so we're adding, so we're capturing that on begin play. We're making sure we set that on each ball when we spawn them. So now they have access to the sensors panel. So we're already setting that casted, aren't we? Yeah, so we're already casting to it, so we shouldn't need to recast to it. So hopefully we can just set a target. Might need to recast that actually, but I will convert these to blueprint interfaces once it's all working, because casting is bad. So long range, we need to basically set our vector. So no, that's the survey. I'm going to have to follow the breadcrumb trail a minute because I can't remember where we're setting the target from. Sensor system target, sensor helm target. Oh, that one, right. So sector location, which means, right, we need a reference to that as well. So update sensor long range selection. So so that'll be on that one. So update long. Yeah, so I'm going to have to cast that again. Cast to BP nav panel, and then update long range targets. That one. Yeah, and then we need a copy of that. So we need to make sure that we set that on here. So if we set sector location, and then we do have a copy of that over here, which is this. Yeah, which is, I have to drag this all the way across here in the most untidy, ugly way possible. So what we're doing essentially is we are replicating a button press as it would have happened on the sensors. So we're simply firing this event on the sensors panel, which then handles the replication for us already, and then sets up all the targeting information there. And it also updates the UI. So assuming that I've done all that properly, if we click on, let's say Wolf 359, if we click on it over here, it should also highlight on here and draw a line. It didn't, because I haven't hooked it up yet. Oh wow, thank you, Firstus. That's a lot of dollarage for a test. So you guys are on 225 XP again, which is what you were on the last stream. Did that actually do anything? So when you made the super chat, did it increase your XP at all? Because I'm still showing 225 on here. I don't know if there's any... I don't know whether it's like diminishing returns or anything like that. It might be diminishing returns. If you click the little crown, it shows you the list of everyone. So click anybody's crown and it will show you the leaderboard. Oh, there's also a community tab at the top. Like a little community button with a crown next to it. Oh, does it? Oh, okay. Yeah, because I think we finished with some people on 500 and something on the last stream. Where are we? Yes, so rather than just going click, we need to instead go target clicked. So target clicked. Cannot type for the life of me today. Let's give this a whirl. So same again then. If I click Wolf 359, should target it on there. Oh, that worked. Ha! Excellent. Alright, so can we do it with E? Yes, we can. It only bloody works. So we should... Yeah, so if we click Alpha Centauri there, do we want to send that to the helm at the same time? I guess not right now. I'm happy with that though. I mean, that's definitely working as intended. And this is kind of a big part of what we need to implement for being able to command the NPCs on the bridge. So, I mean, that's quite a big step forward, really. Yeah. Not bad at all. Right, so I guess the other thing, just looking at the time, we've got about an hour left on the stream, so let's see if we can do the same thing on the medium range as well. So if we do the same thing here, it should be good. So if we take that, we definitely don't need that now. And then we go to there. This one's a bit more fiddly. Guess we're just going to have to, like, we'll crowbar that on here for now. Like, ultimately, this is how all the blueprints need to look. They need to be like properly commented, properly laid out, and nicely structured. I tend to clean them up over time. Okay, so we add the ball for the planet. And then we need to add our child actor. And we need to be adding that in the same location as that one. Okay, and then we're going to have to flag whether or not this is a sector location, i.e. a star system at a high level, or whether or not it's a large system object, i.e. a planet. So that's struct large. Oh no, so we want yeah, struct large system object, which means we need that stored on one of these. Yeah, that one. So sector location, large. Oh. I need to start calling them celestial objects because that's what they actually are. Okay. And that needs to be long range. Target clicked. Orrery. Target clicked. So whether or not we're on medium range or the detailed version of the long range, we're still using the same orrery map. We need to cast to there. And then, similar to that one, we need to capture our that one. So that's the large system object struct. Don't know why it's given me a list of the fields rather than just the struct name. Yeah, there we go. Large system object. So it means we need that one. So update sensor system target. So update system target, and then we feed it wrong variable. That's the one we wanted. Right, so yeah, so same as the one above, we're just firing the event on the sensors themselves. And then we need to feed that into there. So rather than setting sector location, we are setting a celestial object. And then we're giving that Again, I shall tidy up this horrible ugly line going all the way across there. Okay. But then we, oh yeah, and then we need to flag. Yeah, we do definitely need to flag which of those we're using. So in actual fact, that needs to just stay as target clicked. And then we need a boolean here because we can set that boolean at spawn time and switch on that as required. So that would be are we doing a sector location or not? That should be sufficient. And that one doesn't need to be exposed on spawn. Right then. So when we spawn it, we need to set a sector location So in this instance it's no, and then on the render stars version it's going to be yes. Set sector location, that one is a yes. Okay, that one is a no. So that's already done. We don't need to do anything there because we're just firing that event. That might actually already just be it done. Let's try it. So that's that one. So not spawning anything there. Are we spawning anything here? Okay. Why are we not spawning anything? So we add the planet ball, add the static mesh, then we add a child actor. Hang on. We don't want to add it to that though, do we? We want to add it to yeah, that one. That's probably why it wasn't working. I need to add a delay on begin play there to stop it from failing to load the galaxy. Right, can I highlight these? Yes, I can. Okay, so thankfully that already just works out of the box, which is nice, and we can click them. Excellent. Is it highlighting? It's not highlighting on there, so hang on. Click Pluto. No. Although interestingly, is it actually changing the target? Oh, it is. Okay, so it is targeting it. It's just not updating this. Hang on then. So in that case, well, that's weird. It should be updating. So that's working. Yeah, that's definitely updating in real time. I do note though that I can... Oh no, I can left click. Didn't think I could left click, but I can, so that's fine. Okay. So it's the medium range one specifically. So refresh visible list items. Let's just check that on our graph here. Yeah, I do feel privileged. Thanks YouTube for experimenting on me. I don't have much hair left. Just make sure that that matches that. Now, what's it actually doing? So, get displayed widgets. Yeah. Force list item refresh. Okay. Right, and on the long range, refresh visible. So it should be doing the same thing. So we're looping through that. Okay. Oh, yeah, this one. Okay, so it's actually redrawing them. Right, that'll be why. Okay, so if we just pop that in there instead, it should fix the problem. It doesn't really matter if we're refreshing the full list on the medium range because there's never more than about 20 to 30 items, so it's not like we're refreshing a lot of data. Hang on, let me stick a delay on this thing. Okay, so if I click Neptune, is Neptune selected? Yes, it is. Huzzah. Can't quite reach that one. Oh, did we miss CSI leaving? Well, good night, CSI. I shall see you on the next stream. Well, that all worked according to plan. So we don't really have much of a call for it on the short range, because really there isn't anything to click on the short range. So yeah, so that's not really relevant there. But for future purposes, we will begin spawning things on the surface. So you'll be able to click on surface targets to make sure we don't spawn any up there. That's going to be awkward, isn't it? Perhaps we can I think when it comes to the planet map especially, we're going to need some controls here for rotating it and scaling it and that sort of thing that are independent of what's going on over here, because the view that the sensor station gets is always in 2D, so they get the 2D map, and then the command staff get the 3D version, although the sensors will retain the buttons for turning off the layers. So the captain will be like, can you turn the clouds off please, and they'll press the button for him. We don't want to give too much control to the captain. Yes, moons and space stations will be short range. You'll also be able to scan moons from medium range, but for things like surface details, yeah, you need to be on short range. The reason I've set the range to 3 million kilometers was basically using Jupiter as a rough guide. So Jupiter and all of its moons will fit into 3 million kilometers. So that's basically the benchmark I went with. Yeah, so moons will be on the medium range scan, and you'll be able to scan them to level 2 using the medium range scan, but level 3 is still short range, which means be within 3 million kilometers. Very true, actually. Yeah. So the short range view, if I zoom all the way out, which means increasing the range. So that shows you the 3 million kilometers. Yeah, the orbit line doesn't quite line up because of floating point errors. But yeah, you'll see, like for Earth, you'll see the Earth-Moon system, and you'll see all the different moons around whatever planet you're around. So yes, you will be able to zoom in and out and see moons and things. That should be, yeah, so that's the full 3 million kilometers. Making these clickable is going to be a minor challenge. I'm wondering whether we make the ball itself clickable. yeah, I'll do that one when we have moons. Okay. Well, I think that is pretty much that. What else? Let me just write this in my notes a minute so that I don't lose track of what I'm doing. So what did we do? Yeah, drag this over here so you can see it. So again, this is my kind of daily log that that the backers have access to. Added the ability to click the Holo-Display with what would you call it? Either directly or when holding down E. Fixed the trace channels on the piano and the chessboard so they are properly using the interaction channel. I think that's about it, isn't it? Okay, well, I think that is it for tonight. I managed to get that done more quickly than I thought I would. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put this out as a build. I don't think I had any debugs turned on that I need to turn off. So we can actually just go ahead and start building. So clear that log and start the build. So, once again everyone, thank you for joining the stream. It's a bit of a shorter one tonight because we managed to get everything done in rapid time, which is unusual for me. Daniel, has the issue with tessellation or getting close to the planet's surface been resolved yet? No, not yet. So that's an Unreal Engine kind of core problem, in that it's still subdividing meshes way too much. Maybe it's fixed in 5.6. We'll find out quite soon, I would have thought. But yes, it is that time already, so I am going to head off, have a stretch, have another cup of tea, and then I shall get this build out to everyone so you can go and play with the clicky balls. So have a good week ahead, and I shall see everyone on Sunday for the Sunday Fun Day stream, where we'll do something completely random and just for the sake of it, for the sheer hell of it. Yeah. All right, have a good one, everyone. I shall see you on Sunday. Bye for now.